Hello and welcome to the Principality Stadium. We're here for the very first of the Oasis gigs, their big reunion tour. Look, it is the moment that I think many a fan wondered, questioned whether or not it would actually ever happen, whether we'd see this day. And here we are. Liam and Noel are due to be taken to the stage around about 8:30, we think, tonight. So we thought we'd take any questions that you might have over the course of the next half an hour and talk, really, do a bit of a deep dive into the Oasis reunion gigs. And I'm joined by the former Sun editor, Dominic Mohan, and the host of the Oasis podcast, James Corcoran. There you go. I can't get my teeth in already. Look, we were just speculating to start with what we thought might be the first song. If you're Liam and Noel and you're walking out on stage tonight, what do we think they're going to open with?
Country House. Wouldn't that be good? Blur's Country House. Yeah, that would be great.
I mean, that would be a radical way to start it.
I think it will obviously be an instrumental initially, like the Bush's song with the expletive title, or the Swamp song potentially. But I think probably the Bush's track is most likely, and that really pumps everyone up. And then probably I would guess Acquiesce. I think we're agreed on that, aren't we?
Yeah, I would guess Acquiesce. I think Acquiesce is because it's the emotion in the lyrics,
the brotherly anthem.
The fact it's both brothers sing, and then the because we need each other. It's the message. It's the message of the band. So that would be my choice.
Come on, this is Liam and Noel. Do we think is there going to be any embracing on stage? Any warm hugs? What?
A nod, maybe.
A nod. Yeah. Liam would occasionally do that thing where, like, if Noel was playing, he'd just go and wind him up. He'd put his arms around him when he's trying to do a tricky solo. So if we get an embrace, it might be while Noel's trying to do a Live Forever solo or something, just to annoy him.
There could be a no touching rule, though, couldn't there?
Maybe.
Do you think that's in the contract?
It could be.
It could be. That's a good point.
How lucrative a gig do we think, well, not just specifically this one, but how lucrative do we think this reunion tour is going to be for them? I think it's 14 dates in the UK, isn't it? And then they go
17.
off around the world.
Well, 41 in total, isn't it? So I've done a little back of a fag packet equation. So if there's 41 nights, average crowd of 75,000, because I think some of the crowds are going to be higher in South America. Average ticket price £200 and something. You're getting not far off £1 billion just for ticket sales. 860 million, something like that. Merchandise deals on top of that. Share of the food and beverage. And the beverages will there'll be a few of those shifted over the rest.
Well, James, you were saying the merch is all tied into Warner Brothers, do we think?
Yeah, we believe so, because I think it's sort of, even that, it's every single deal. Like, you've got the Adidas deal, you've got the merch deal with Warner's, you've got, it's very corporate, but which is fine because this is what it is. They're not, like we were talking about Coldplay, they're not Coldplay, they're not coming in talking about being net zero. They've always been, maybe as growing up working class lads, they're not worried about coming across as flash, making money. They're quite happy about it. They came up with nothing. So actually, to then say, we are making $1 billion and we don't care, that's more their style. So it's a huge undertaking.
But Taylor Swift's tour took over $2 billion. So in relation, that was a lot more dates, admittedly. But it is up there with it is the biggest British band reunion of all time. And I don't think it'll ever be eclipsed, because I don't see a band emerging in the same way because of changes in technology, changes in music consumption, changes in the media as well. I just feel that a band with that sort of cultural and societal influence, the conditions aren't there anymore.
No.
We talk about changes in the media. Can we go back to then your early days as a journalist and the time when you became a Sun editor as well? You interviewed the band a few times, was it right?
Yes.
What was your first encounter like?
Well, the first time I saw them live was in 1994 at the Kentish Town Forum, not as a journalist, purely as a sort of somebody said, you've got to see this band, they're amazing.
And that was definitely Maybe came out that year.
That was actually just before, 2 weeks before Definitely Maybe came out. And it actually, I remember being at the front and it was really rough. I was with my wife and she was scared because she thought it was all going to kick off, because there was a lot of staring out between the audience and the band. Never seen anything like it. I'm too young for punk, you see. I haven't seen all that.
But people did go to the gigs back in the day, sort of expecting that swagger, and it was a bit confrontational back in the day.
It's just Liam had that thing. He would stand there, and it was like you're staring out someone for a fight, and that was just how he always, how he would square up to the audience, like, come on, and it's just there was always that, and then and there was tension, and then there was various things. I was a little bit younger than Dominic, but I was like 14, hearing about all this stuff happening in 1994. So all that sort of stuff happening, as they were rising, and but I probably heard about them more before I'd even heard the music, because it was on the the Newcastle gig where he's lamped someone with a guitar and all that sort of stuff. So
that's when the newspapers started really writing about with that sort of the offstage kind of antics. But
so working as a journalist, then were you sort of tasked with these boys had come out of nowhere, and people seemed to be sort of getting into the attitude that they were presenting?
I mean, I was very interested in them as characters, as well as the fantastic music that they obviously produce. So then what you have to put in perspective is, from that gig at Kentish Town, which was August 94, by the following November they'd sold out 2 nights at Earl's Court, 20,000 people. I think George Michael was there, Pet Shop Boys, Madonna. It was like a big kind of showbiz event almost. And then I joined The Sun, and suddenly the music that I loved was the stuff they wanted me to write about.
Making front-page news.
And that just, if you can write with that passion and authenticity, I think readers really notice that. And when The Sun in 1996 was selling one day in March 1996, it sold 4.83 million copies.
Wow.
So sort of setting that sort of national conversation in a lot of ways, and reflecting the zeitgeist of the country, which was Oasis, Britpop, Cool Britannia. The emergence of Tony Blair alongside it, and the young British artists like Damien Hirst and Alexander McQueen, and it was all an amazing tsunami of creativity.
So when did you actually get to interview them for the first time?
Well, I used to see them out and about quite a lot of various award ceremonies, and collar them for some, for brief interviews. But I've never actually properly sat down with Noel in a sort of proper pre-arranged interview. But with Liam, I was, the best encounter with Liam was probably, I went to Japan for the opening night of the Standing on the Shoulder of Giants tour.
They were huge. They were huge in Japan, weren't they?
Yeah, and that was on the off chance, of obviously going to the gig, but trying to get an interview with them. And I managed to stumble upon Liam in a hotel bar, and ended up getting 2 hours with him, talking about Patsy, about the kids, about drugs, about his brother, about David Beckham, and it was sort of right time, right place. It's probably something that wouldn't happen these days.
I mean, was he quite a sort of unguarded character?
Yeah.
And
I mean, when you get him on his own, he's fine. It's just in front of other people, and then it starts to go a bit nuts. But yeah, I mean, he's actually a bit of a softie, and I think actually, he'll be feeling the nerves before this gig, because I'm told that he does suffer. He does get anxious before these, because all the eyes are on him, really, aren't they? And I think it does definitely, play on him.
Yeah. James, take us back to how it all went so wrong in the end. They broke up in Paris in the end, didn't they? Plums were involved, weren't they?
Apparently. So it's all sort of a bit he said, she said, and we don't know 100% what happened. I think people from Madness who were on the bill have talked about it as well. So being the detective, you kind of piece things together as to what actually happened. But yeah, I think they'd reached that point. That tour in 2009. There was a lot of animosity. You could just feel their parts weren't in it. They just wanted it to be finished. And there was only a handful of more dates going. They could have probably got to the end of the tour,
had a break,
and then had a break, gone off, and if Noel could have gone and done his solo album, and then come back and then we'll get back to Oasis, and it would have been okay, I think. But it just, like Noel said, it just couldn't have gone any further. But plums were thrown, a guitar was swung, and then Noel just said, right, I'm done.
But with, like the Stones, I mean, they sort of reached that point where they all start hating each other by the end of the tour, but then they just have 3 years off, and then it's all fine again. And really, I think if they'd have just got to the end of that tour, then it could be a different story.
But your siblings push your buttons in a way that no other can. Do you think is that the crucial detail here?
Well, it's interesting. Rather pretentiously, perhaps, I did write a piece saying that we've always been fascinated with sibling rivalry. It goes back to the Bible, biblical, as Liam would say. You look at the story of Joseph and his brothers. He fell out with them all, and then they're all reconciled at the end. Just see whether Liam's going to be wearing his coat of many colours on stage tonight. but no, we have always been fascinated, from the Bible, and with a lot of stories over the decades and the centuries. So I think that acrimony that we saw, that was being played out, on social media in quite a vicious way. In a way, that's why it's £1 billion
Yeah.
because it looks so unlikely. I mean, it's similar with the Stone Roses in a way. That kind of was a similar story of antagonistic hatred. And
How surprised were you to be thrown into the middle of the Liam claims that you're actually there when they broke up as well. Not you, we should
yeah, I was mistakenly blamed for the split. I was quite surprised to read an interview in GQ in 2017 saying that the reason we split up is because Dominic Mohan was in our backstage area drinking our free champagne.
Set the record straight. You have drunk champagne before?
I have. I've seen Oasis 25 times, I think, but I've never seen them in Paris. And I'd actually just got the job as the editor of The Sun when he alleged that happened, and I certainly wouldn't have been on the RAS with them in Paris. I think my boss might have had something to say about that.
But I guess the timing of that then, you took over The Sun and it was front page news, wasn't it?
It's quite an irony that actually, that just as I got the job that I'd always dreamed of, one of my favourite bands called it a day, and actually I was having to cover that in the embryonic days of my editorship.
Talk about James, the fact that I think we might assume that it will be sort of men of a certain age here today, but you look around here, you walk around, and they really are, the demographic it's young, old, it's everyone. They do seem to have maintained the sort of diverse fan base, haven't they?
Absolutely, yeah. It's not all going to be, guys in their 40s and 50s in bucket hats. Like, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of them.
There's a high proportion.
There is a lot of them, but, there is people from all around the world. We've got, we've got the guys from the Whatever podcast in Spanish, which is they're from Peru, they're here. We've got France. It's basically every country in the world, and they all wanted to be here for today. But yeah, every mix of ages. Like I was on the Definitely Maybe tour that Liam did last year, and I was a co-op in Manchester, and I was really taken aback by the split, the male-female split as well. I think that maybe in Manchester, there's the Manchester women love Oasis and love Liam. Maybe even more than sort of in other parts of the country, being one of their own. But it will be a really nice split, really nice mix of people.
I mean, the band as well have spoken about, I think, haven't they, the fact that they've always wanted to be a sort of inclusive audience. They've never sort of felt like it's a sort of all male, sort of scary fan base.
And it started out that way. If you look back at Nebworth footage, if you look back at the footage from the early gigs, it's really young, like young teenagers, 14, 15 years old. And Liam was a pop star, right? He was on the smash hits with Damon, the same as the Take That guys at the time. He's 17. He was a beautiful pop star that everyone loved, and and so there was a huge split of ages, but primarily young people. I think the problem was into the 2000s, it got a reputation for that's where the lads go to football stadiums to get drunk, throw substances around in cups, and it got rough and aggressive and quite footballish. Whereas I think that's gone away now. I think that we'll see. Hopefully, we don't come out and do a post interview covered in bodily fluids. But I think that I think that it will be, because that generation have grown up and matured a bit, I think. And then the younger ones coming through. Well, young people now are just really polite.
But also, do you not think that? I've seen it with my own children, that they're really interested in this reunion because they don't feel that they've ever had anything like that for themselves. They don't really like Coldplay, they don't really like Ed Sheeran, grime, and that doesn't really push the buttons for a lot of young people. So I've seen a lot of groups of lads in their 20s wandering around fully merched up. So there's a longevity there.
I'm going to got some questions from viewers for you guys in a minute. I'm just going to very quickly go over here, and we're going to grab. Oh no, I've broken the microphone. This bodes well. We're going to go over here and grab some people that are here. Scott, you saw them at Nebworth. You're here back again today.
In '96. What a wonderful day that was on the Saturday, first of the two big gigs that year. It was a phenomenal experience.
I mean, how important was it to you to get tickets for tonight?
Yes, I brought my 19-year-old son with me today. He's been desperate to see Oasis, and we thought, well, are they ever going to get back together again? But thankfully they did, and just desperate to get tickets, and thankfully got lucky opening night. So yeah.
I mean, we were talking about this actually, that as a band they have crossed generations, haven't they? For you, was it sort of teaching your son about their music as well?
He's been brought up on the music over the years, and he's just so excited. But you just see in town today how many sort of the cross generations, the range of ages, people are excited to go and see the band. So I'm just excited for everyone, really.
Are you very much expecting to lose your voice by the end of the evening?
Indeed, absolutely. Everyone will be singing along, and the roof's going to be on. It's going to be great sound in there. So can't wait to get inside.
I'll enjoy it tonight.
Thank you so
Thank you very
much.
much. I'm just going to get a couple who are over here who I believe have come all the way from South Korea. You've come from South Korea, have you, for this moment? Wow. I mean, what do Oasis mean to you? Why come all from that way?
We really like Oasis since we were teenagers, maybe, yes. And this is our first time seeing them, and actually I didn't even think of their concert. I can see when I was leaving because they are broken few years ago, so I didn't imagine, but now we can see, reunion, so we just can't wait it about.
So how long a journey has this been? How long was the flight here, and did you come to Cardiff first?
Flight time was 10 and 7, actually 17 hours.
Wow,
Yes,
17 hours.
Yes.
But will Oasis be worth it?
Yes, of course.
And what song are you most looking forward to?
Live Forever.
Live Forever. Well, same for you?
Wonderworld's classic, yeah.
Well, I'll see you inside singing along later. Thank you so much for talking to us. Right, I'm back, boys, if I can assemble this again. Right, we have a few questions.
Okay.
From JP8, oh thank you, Dominic's doing the professional stuff. From JP83, what do you guys think about the rumours that guitarist Bonehead will be separating Liam and Noel while on stage for the tour, as per the rehearsal photos?
Yeah, so this has come out, that I think that the setup of the rehearsal has been released. I think it was in the programme. And you've got Liam, Noel, and then Bonehead's rig is in the middle. So I suppose if one of them does try and launch at the other one, then Bonehead's, he could stop it. But no, I think it's just that you've got Liam and Noel, front two, if you're talking football, you've got a front two, and then you've got Bonehead supporting striker.
in the 10
in the
role.
10. And then you've got like the rest sort of backing it up, who are just sort of, more let out of the limelight. Because I think that's nice for Bonehead, because he was in the band. He was in the original lineup that we all love. And we love Gem and we love Andy. And as an Oxford boy, like the fact that Andy Bell, an Oxford boy, is in the band means I can claim 1/7 of Oasis for Oxford. But they are much more in the background, and let's let Bonehead go a bit further forward, and then Liam and Noel out front.
Do you think there's going to be a degree of sort of people trying to sort of smooth that relationship throughout the course of this? I mean, how did they even manage to sort of get them talking again? One has to wonder.
Well, Anais played a role by the sound of it. She was perhaps the peacemaker on behalf of Peggy, the mother. But I mean, I do think this is a very different setup, this tour. I think I mentioned the Rolling Stones earlier. I think you are seeing a bit of a Mick Jagger and Keith thing, where separate dressing rooms, separate guest lists, separate VIP areas and seating areas. So they'll keep them apart as much as possible, just to avoid any kind of flashpoints. But I think Bonehead is a good sort of middleman. You would mess with him, wouldn't you?
And one other point there, is that in the tour programme, because that was sort of released yesterday when they opened the merch stand. I mean, who knows of a merch stand opening the day before?
Wow.
They're going to sell out of everything before anyone gets here. But it is listed. There's 3 tour managers listed. Liam's tour manager, Noel's tour manager, the band's tour manager.
Wow.
So it's very clear this is 3 kind of units. So I think that's how they're going to make sure it actually does happen.
We had another question as well come through. Does Noel always feel as if he is the one who has to back down in an argument with Liam? Does he always feel that Liam is getting the upper hand and that's why he finally walked away? What do we think? That's from Joanna McCauley. Because do we think it's I mean, in many ways, hasn't Liam been the one for a few years that's sort of been hinting that
He's had the olive branch also, hasn't he?
But it was weird because he was reaching out and he was saying like, oh, let's get the band back together, Noel, come on. And then in the next breath, he would like write a song about how he hates Noel's wife. He would insult Noel's children. And so you sort of like, you can't say you hate him and then say, come on, I love you, let's get the band back together.
What I thought was interesting, you mentioned that definitely maybe 30th anniversary tour that Liam did. Having seen that at the O2, I felt at the time, I thought Liam was throwing down the gauntlet to his brother because it was as close to Oasis as you could get. Yeah. The set was actually very similar to the one I saw in '94, the set list that is, and obviously he had Bonehead and there was that real wall of sound. It was as close to Oasis as you could get. And I think that was Liam saying to Noel, I'm going to do this again next year for the 30th anniversary of What's the Story Morning Glory, with or without you. Yeah. And I think that in a way, you know, he kept the flame burning for Noel's songs, really. I mean, you know, I went to see Noel at Alexandra Palace, an outdoor gig in the summer, and it was very pleasant, you know, but it just didn't have that sense of, that epic sense that you get with Liam in the front.
Yeah.
I think as well, Noel wants to be, you know, he's got an ego, you know, he wants to be the big star, and actually the last couple of years, you know, Council Skies didn't get to #1, still sold well, but, you know, this was a step down. The last tour didn't sell that well, and then meanwhile, Liam's playing Nebworth, selling out these huge arenas, and yeah, you just do think maybe Noel thought, okay, now's the time, and then plus, obviously, like we said, the publishing rights, so yeah.
Some of those Liam gigs were brilliant to be a part of, though, to hear the chorus of everyone sort of singing along to the hits. It's going to be
You
mad,
wait till
isn't
this
it?
one.
I know, it's going to be so loud, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone will know every single
I mean, that's
word
what I've
of the
noticed
song.
at Oasis gigs, even from the first one. They are so loud, like they're deafeningly loud. It'll be interesting here. I mean, I'm told the roof's going to be shut. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Even on such a beautiful
Yeah,
day
because
like
they don't
this.
want any, well, we're speculating, they don't want any drones to go up and give away any
So I have heard
secrets.
some nasty stories about the sound when the roof's closed, but I've only ever been to football here. I've never actually been to a concert, so we'll see how cavernous the
I'm
sound
just
is.
going to very quickly try and get one more fan while we're here as I break the microphone and the cameraman gets very cross with me. You guys are brother and sister, and you saw them at the Eden Project and at Nebworth.
Yeah.
Wow. Mega fans then, you've seen them a lot. Did you have
I've seen them a bit, yeah.
Did you have to be here for this moment?
Oh, yeah.
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 100%.
Have we got over the fraught process of managing to actually get the ticket in the
No, I was
first
just
place?
saying to your colleague that I was in and out of Ticketmaster in 5 minutes.
No way.
Yeah.
You got it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You were one of the few that managed that.
Yeah, I got into the first ballot that they did, and literally just got straight onto Ticketmaster, in, out, no problems whatsoever. And,
Wow.
and then I started shaking for about 10 minutes after.
Had to lie down in a darkened room. Why are they so special? Why did you want to be here? What is it about their music?
Reliving my youth, really.
Is that it? It's a huge sort of nostalgia
Yeah.
moment.
1996, I was 19. I'm 48 now, and it's just amazing to like be able to come back thanks to this one.
Do we miss characters like the Gallaghers? I mean,
yeah.
they were one-offs, weren't they?
Yeah.
They are.
I
It's not their word. They are.
Sorry, they're still going, aren't they?
I think modern music is quite bland, and there's nobody like Liam and Noel, you know, pushing boundaries and, you know, just with that swagger attitude and all that. There's just nobody like it anymore.
Where are your tickets for? Where will you be positioned?
Standing tickets.
You're going to try and push your way as far forward as you
Yeah,
can get.
hopefully we can get as far as we can, or front pit if they're doing wristbands and stuff. We'll try our best, but I think I'm just glad to be here.
Was it emotional at Nebworth? Will it be sort of doubly emotional because you've got all this sort of history in between now?
It was just different back then. Like we were 19 and 21,
I was 21,
and
yeah.
there was no phones, no social media. It was like you're
was-
in the moment.
yeah.
Like you're not looking at them through a screen. It was like
The whole
they were
day
this
was
big.
just incredible.
because it was crazy.
Yeah, it was such a big place. It was such a big place. The weather was so hot.
It was boiling.
Yeah, it was. It was ridiculously hot. And
Come on, as well as brothers and sister, then as brother and sister, what are your advice for Noel and Liam for sort of sticking it out throughout this run? What do they need to do to get on?
they just need to be friends. They
Yeah.
just like
that hard?
stop arguing. And
I mean, we don't really argue, but I think male and female is maybe a bit different. But
yeah, I mean, you know, brothers. I mean, I haven't got a brother, but they do bicker, and it is what it is. But I think the bickering makes them what they are.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
it wouldn't be
yeah,
it wouldn't be Oasis without them bickering and fighting. And it's just nice that they're back together. So
It's so exciting. I'm getting excited now as well. Enjoy it tonight.
Lovely.
I'll
Thanks,
see you
guys.
inside of the stadium. Right, let's just get the microphone on the go. James, you were saying that you've spoken to some people that had heard the sound checks earlier in the week, is that right?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
the sort of gossip from what we've heard so far?
Well, I don't want to necessarily spoil things here because people watching might not want to know what was spoiled, and I only heard the first couple. So, so it's basically there's a lady that works, I think, like in one of these offices probably, and was just sort of nipping out and seeing it. But yeah, and there was, so she was recording, right by the door, and then I think a load of other people did the next day. So the first one I heard, which isn't a spoiler because it's the song they played most, is Cigarettes and Alcohol. And so obviously we knew that's going to be played. And then you had like the eagle-eyed detective nerds like us on the podcast going, well, is this a recording? Is this live? Surely Liam's not there to sing it now. So I think what they were doing was they recorded the rehearsals and then they were playing it over the loudspeakers as opposed to test out the loudspeakers. But then
and get the videos sorted.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think there was stuff popped up yesterday with Noel doing lead vocals on songs. So whether or not that was just Noel testing it out.
Well,
also saving Liam's voice, surely.
Saving Liam's voice
This is what I was going to say. The one security man that I spoke to who said that they didn't see it, but they heard some of the sound checks, said there was a day when it was just Noel that was doing the sound check. So whether or not that has been Liam,
I think they'll be
his
protecting
voice.
him.
And that's always the case. Liam was never involved. Liam just turns up, sings and goes. You know, Noel is the chief. You know, they call him the chief for a reason. He oversees everything, you know, and so he would be very much in charge. However, on that point, interestingly enough, this tour, if you think the support bands are pretty much Liam's pals, the keyboard player is Liam's pal. You know, it's so a lot of it. Bonehead is
and the drummer
and the drummer is Liam's pal. So pretty much, you know, what we would have thought if it was Oasis, you would think, okay, Noel says, right, I'll make all the decisions, Liam, you come in and talk. But actually, Liam, it seems like, is an equal partner, if not maybe a little bit
higher.
higher.
Comes back to your point about the managers, doesn't it? They're all going to be fighting for their territory or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
For those that don't know, the support is Richard Ashcroft and Cast.
Cast or Cast.
Cast, I'm so southern
as well, yeah. But I say Cast.
And obviously they've always had a very close relationship with Richard Ashcroft from the Verve, haven't they, from early days? In fact, they supported the Verve, I think, initially, didn't they?
Yeah, we were just listening to the Verve on the way down, and it was funny that the Verve, they started out supporting the Verve, and then obviously Oasis got bigger. But then around 97, 98, when Urban Hymns came out, I think the Verve overtook them for a little while.
Torch, definitely.
Yeah, but then you know they split, and then Oasis took it back.
That was a good show. I went to the Verve at Hay Cool in Wigan, which was their homecoming gig. And Bonehead was there and all that. That was amazing. But we're here to talk about Oasis, not the Verve.
Oasis, Dominic. Should we end on one last question from Mr. Milkcake on YouTube? Will there be a new album after the tour?
Unlikely. But
didn't Liam joke about one, but then he had to hurriedly say no?
Yeah, I think the difference is we know that basically Noel is constantly tinkering and recording. He did scrap, like he was going to do like an acoustic album, and he scrapped it, and he said, no, I'm going to do more rockier stuff next. And he was like, oh, hold on, what does that mean? You know, so there is like new Oasis recordings coming out though. The bonus tracks on the What's the Story Morning Glory 30th anniversary. It sounds like the original vocals from the 90s have then been Noel's actually re-recorded. So there is like new Oasis music, but yeah, in terms of a new album, new songs, unlikely. I think they're probably just thinking, let's get through this.
I think this is probably a logical conversation at the once they've come to the end of this cycle. But I think, like I said earlier, this cycle is going to go on longer than we think, because I think they're going to be back next year. I would think. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a residency at the Etihad in Manchester to time with the Main Road concerts 30 years ago, and then obviously you've got the Nebworth anniversary coming up. So as long as they can keep it together, which I'm pretty confident they will, I think they have to. You know, we might be seeing a lot more of them.
Do you think we'll all have lost our voices by the end of the evening? What are you most looking forward to?
I hope Liam has it.
Not Liam, crucially. What's the song for you that will be a moment?
Well, I mean, from when I've seen them, when I saw the Main Road, the Live Forever moment was absolutely spine-tingling when Liam turned round and they had images of Elvis Presley and then ultimately John Lennon, Bob Marley, and then it was John Lennon and Liam sort of did the We're Not Worthy thing in front of them. That was an absolutely memorable moment. So I think we'll probably see something of that ilk.
Yeah, James, will it be emotional?
I would love it. What would break me would be if they did Stay Young, because that's like the anthem of the Oasis podcast. That's our theme effectively, which would be incredible, but I don't think that they're going to play that. So yeah, for me, like we said earlier, it would be Acquiesce, because we need each other. That's the message.
Look, well, we will leave it here from the stadium. All we've got to do now is sort of kill a few hours before we actually get to see Noel and Liam take to the stage. It is a really exciting moment, a moment within music history for all of us. And look, the excitement's building. We will let you know how it goes and how they sound a bit later on today.